We made
We
it.
landed.
So, good morning, gorgeous Ibrahim. To listeners out there, Ibrahim, I obviously know who you are and a bit about what you do, but to listeners out there, we're going to get started right away. So, I'm going to read out your bio.
Mm.
Ibrahim, you are an actor, a theater practitioner working across stage and TV. Over the last 5 years, you've worked with organizations such as the Royal Shakespeare Company, Apple TV, the Globe, and Paramount Plus. And as a facilitator, you've worked across the world, including Japan and the US, delivering theater workshops within an educational context. You're also producer of a London samba band for under 21-year-olds in the heart of the city. I didn't know this part. I love that little like side note, little side hustle. And alongside your freelance work, you've been co-running Piece of Cake Productions, an organization dedicated to championing and a platform for the Black and global majority artist. Absolutely amazing. So, Ibrahim, such a joy to have you here. And there's so much here. And I was like, where do we start? But as always, in order for listeners out there to really benefit from this episode and to make this relatable and to not just go, oh, so Ibraheem Toure is this cool, amazing guy, and how can I relate to him? How can his story inspire me? It's so important that we go back in time. So
So,
for me, tell us everything and nothing. Tell us what you want, but let's go back in time. Where were you born?
mm,
And what kind of family structure were you born into? So, in terms of siblings, mom and dad, were they together? What kind of belief systems? What kind of spirit? Not just spirituality, but like what kind of energy were you brought up in? Yeah,
yeah.
over to
Wow.
you.
Wow. Hello, everyone. So I guess if we're going to take it back to the beginning, I was born in Ealing Hospital, which is in London, in West London, in 1999. So just sort of for context, that takes us back to where my life started. And I think that over time, obviously, reflection wise, I've always thought about 99 as an interesting place to be born, an interesting year to be born, because everyone's like, so you're not a 90s baby. And I'm like, but I am a 90s baby. I want to be a 90s baby. I'm not 2000 baby. I am part of that golden era of the 90s, but I'm the end. I'm very much the end of it. So yeah, born in 99 in Ealing. My mum and dad are both from the Caribbean, so I'm born into a Caribbean household. Um, Trinidadian dad, Jamaican mum. They were born in this country, so it's actually my grandparents from those islands, but very much integrated into our family. I think our family structure, if I was to look at the first, because interestingly, I was raised as a Muslim, so my parents reverted to Islam way back in like the 90s, early 90s, maybe late 80s. So I was raised in a very Islamic household, which means that a lot of my deep morals are rooted in that. Even though I don't practice anymore, as where I'm at, being honest, a lot of like my analogies and my metaphors and the words that I hear in my head are from hadiths, which are stories from the Prophet, and from that sort of region in the world, actually. So when I talk about my life, I chunk it up in sevens because there is a hadith that talks about your life in sevens. So 0 to 7, you're a boy. 7 to 14, you're sort of growing into your young adolescence. 14 to 21, 21 to 28. So these chapters in your life. So I'm going to try and use those to kind of chunk out my life. So 0 to 7 was very much we lived in North Holt in West London. My grandmother lived around the corner, so we had a very close relationship with my mum's mum. We still do, which is another part of the chapter that comes later. Sorry. Morning, good morning,
Ah,
voice.
don't worry.
Uh,
Yeah, get that morning voice on.
good morning, voice. So yeah, like we grew up in that area, went to school in Northolt. So I very much started my life in this area of Northolt. And for context, Northolt in London, where it's not as far out as Uxbridge, which is like if you're on the Metropolitan line, you're going all the way down. It's not as far as that. So I could get into places like Shepherd's Bush. I could get into places like Kilburn. I could get into these like sort of cultural hubs really easily. Um, but then we're also this little like sort of village area just off the A40. So then you could get to Birmingham. You get on the in the car and we'd motor up to Birmingham. My mum's family are in Birmingham, so we go up and see her side of the family in Birmingham. It was such a, I think growing up, especially in those early years, it was full of community. My mum and dad's friends are so close, like that sort of revert Muslim community, which is a lot of British people who converted to Islam in that era. So they had this sense of we're British. We are from the diaspora of being Black British, being Asian British, being even white British into Islam. So I was surrounded by diversity. I was surrounded by people from different walks of life, but also surrounded by people trying something different. People who had gone, you know what, I grew up in this way and I've chosen my life this way at 27 or at 25 or at 21 or at 19. You know, for context about my dad, like, he's an educator, he's a teacher, he's one of those people that he likes to teach, and that can be amazing sometimes and sometimes very challenging. But his energy is all about teaching. He went to Gambia when he was in his 20s. So my name, Ibraheem Toure, which is actually really useful context, is actually not my name. It's a name like Toure is a name that he chose when he went to West Africa. My surname should actually be Julian, which would be the Trinidadian name that his dad has, his dad's dad has, and I guess that's the first point of friction I ever saw in my life, which is I've got a different name to everybody else in my family. Do you know what I mean? So
Oh my
me, my brother,
God.
and my sister, we are Tourés. My dad as well is a Touré. My mum her last name is White. My mum's dad is a Mullings. So like she has her mum's name. So again, like I've been surrounded by difference existing in the same space. I've never said that out loud. So that's a tasty little discovery I've just had there. Like, actually, my life has always been surrounded by different people, having different names, having different walks of life, having different things happening for them. Your favorite auntie being from Cuba, but my and speaking Spanish and going to her house, and everyone just speaks Spanish. And then going to my uncle's house who spins reggae records, but he's not a Muslim, and we can sit there and have Christmas, and then going to my grandparents' house in Trinidad and being with my cousins in Trinidad, and they're Hindu, and like I've always been surrounded by diversity. So that's kind of where I started my life.
Wow.
Um,
And I'm just going to stop you for a moment
yeah,
because I'm
yeah,
like, yes. So,
yeah.
and you said, wait, you are how many siblings? Are you three or four in
So
total? You're
there's
three.
three of us, two younger.
Amazing. And so you're the oldest one? Is that what you're saying?
Eldest, yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
the oldest one. Wow. And this is also an interesting little side note because I'm sitting here doing the math and I'm like, you're from 99. And I'm like, you come across so much more mature than your age. So
Right.
again, I mean, psychologically, that kind of makes sense because you are the older brother, right? But it's really interesting because I was like, not about your looks. I mean, come on, you're beautiful. But like,
Thanks.
I'm not gonna not say that. But I was like, but
Yeah.
sorry, listeners out there, I'm having a moment. But yeah, like really interesting that thing of like because being plunked into this mix of diversity, also being the oldest of all the siblings, and then that thing of how you're just just before the threshold of the world going into the 2000s, right? You're just there on the edge.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this recurrent theme of like you're just on the edge. You have your own surname in the family, like you are part of something and yet you are your own.
Yeah. Totally.
I love this.
Totally.
How amazing.
And I think that's so interesting that you talk about being on the edge. Like my childhood memories are probably the same as yours in terms of I had VHS, I had cassettes, I had like I was pre-internet. Do you know what I mean? Like my childhood was pre-internet. It was we just about had CDs. Because again, like the context of I think people think when they look back in history, they go, well, in the 2000s, everyone had Blackberries. And it's like, no, actually, people who were poor or people who couldn't afford or were on the breadline or were actually still 5, 10 years behind. So actually, like, I think our family, and I talk about my nuclear family, my mum and my dad, again for context, and I'm getting braver in saying this. Like my dad has a severe motor neuron condition. You know, like he has had that since I was basically born, which has again informed who I am as a person because, you know, I've seen my dad in hospital, I've seen my dad in bed for days, not getting up. I've had to look after my siblings. I've had to do so much stuff that, you know, as a young carer, basically. And my mum's gone to work and my mum's in, you know, trying to make money and do that sort of stuff. You know, she works as a human resources advisor in the NHS. She's been doing that for 25, 26 years. Like I did take on a lot of those responsibilities. I was on the sort of edge of being a child, but also being an adult, you know, and
Mm.
actually like when I think about that concept of being on the edge, I really see how it's informed who I am today as a young man. Like I'm constantly trying to sit on the edges so that I can understand both perspectives, sit on the edges so I can hear different ideas, sit on the edge so I'm not sitting in just my mindset, so I can actually be almost like a vessel for people to communicate through. And I think that's always been my sort of journey, whether that's intentional or not, it has been where I am. So that's kind of like my answer,
Yes. No,
I
no,
guess.
thank you so much for giving us all that incredible, beautiful context. And exactly like you said, you know, you are that bridge, you are that channel, you are that mediator. And, you know, sometimes a role finds us in life. Funny because you're an actor, haha. But also, you know, and so, haha. And also, and sometimes we choose it, right? Sometimes it's a bit of both. But I
Mhm.
think I can so relate to that thing of having a deep desire to understand different perspectives. And not only because you had to, like you were plunked into that, you know, that was the world you grew up in, right? But
Sure.
also having a deep desire to understand, right?
Yeah.
My own upbringing was also a lot of different mixes. My main thing very early in life was mainly that my parents weren't together, and there was
Mhm.
always this kind of, it felt like a war.
Yeah.
You know, and all I wanted, like any other child, it's not, I didn't have a desire for them to be together. I was like, no, no, that's all good. I
Yeah.
wanted peace, and I wanted everyone to be at peace, right? So since I
Mhm.
was a kid, I would be talking to my dad's family and my mom's family and my mom and my dad and my siblings, and all I wanted to do was understand perspective and then be that bridge that would try and, you know, negotiate on either sides, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I can so relate to that. Anyway, let's get back to you. So
No,
here
but
you
I
are.
think I think that's super interesting because I had that, but my parents were together. Like
Whoa!
you know, like so I had that like I'm my mum's best friend because my dad is not able to do things. You know, like so I'd be doing things, my mum would be like, go and do this thing. My dad would be in the house and I'd be like, Mum's asked me to do this thing. And like actually I think I lived in quite a separated household that was together.
Right.
And therefore my grandparents were more important and intrinsic because they were trying to fill in those gaps. And they were going, well, we know our son. My grandma was like, I know my son. I know what he's going through and I know who he is. So I'm here to fill in that gap that he's not able to do. And then my grandma from my mum's side was always like, this is my daughter, my only daughter, and I will always be here. So then it was like the gaps were filled with my grandparents. And I think that is something that this generation now living actually don't have a lot of is you and your grandparent and what that means, you and your grandma, you and your granddad. Like, what does that feeling give you? Because it's like the step generation, isn't it? It's like if you're not with your mum all the time and you're with your grandma, she can give you knowledge that she gave your mum, but is also recontextualized for you. And it's just like,
No,
oh, you know, that love I have for my grandparents is very deep.
100%. And it's also like, you know, it's that place where you can confide, right? You can confide
Mhm.
because also because there is that step of separation. So whatever your grandmother will say, you
Yeah,
might be more open to hearing than if it came directly from your mom, right? Or directly from
yeah,
your dad, right? So
totally.
And also, and for them, they get to perhaps be the mom or the dad that they couldn't
Yes.
for their own children, right? So there's so much healing, and it's Ibrahim. Like I loved it. We're like, I'm like, let's talk about your life, and then we're here talking about generational healing, which is, ancestral healing is one of my main, not just interests, but also what I do. So I do energy healing, and my thing is always looking at the whole family system. Like I am so fascinated by it. So the fact that we're like jumping into this is just beautiful. And also, and I love it as well, because again, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to have to pop in. Like, you were born in 1999. Like, most of the people that I know from that era, like that I come across, they don't talk about this. Like, they're still too young, like to have gone through that sense of like ripeness, maturity and there's nothing wrong with it, but I was not expecting to have this conversation this morning. So this is just like really joyful. Thank you so much. Wow. Yes. Family systems, family love, even when it's tough, even when it's difficult, right?
Totally. Totally.
Because it's easy to love when it's easy to love.
Totally.
Can we still love when there is huge amount of conflict, right? When there is, people are literally almost declaring war on one another,
Yeah.
right? So, wow, this is, you make so much sense. The more I hear, I'm like, wow.
But I think, like,
Yeah.
again, I try as much as possible. I've been through hard things in my life, like everybody does, but I would say like some exceptional circumstances, like some of the things I've seen happen to my family and some of the things that happened to, especially my dad, like as a young boy growing up and you're seeing your dad in this space and you're like, that could really mess me up, and probably has in some ways, maybe I might need to go do some therapy, maybe. But there's also a thing about not wearing it on your sleeve. And I think that what I try to do is I don't wear my pain on my sleeve. I go, that's a part of my story, but every single day I make a choice on what my story is going to be. So every single day I get to choose, am I going to go for love or am I going to go for pain? I choose that. I could react through pain or I could react through love. And I think love usually works out better. And it has so far for me. But as soon as I react out of pain, I've seen it just dismantle and things erode. And actually, that has happened to me. It's happened to my siblings, of course, but it's happened to me in a specific way as the eldest. I don't need to give that out to anybody else. I don't need to pass that on. And again, you talk about generational cycles. The cycle between my dad and his dad and then me is so intertwined. Like my granddad is still alive. He's 94. And like, yeah, like I spent 6 weeks with him in 2024. I lived with him for 6 weeks in Trinidad because he lives by himself. And I saw everything. I went, oh, that's why my dad is like this. Oh, that's why he talks to me like this. Oh, that's why we have a communication barrier. And, you know, I think that through love, I will be able to dismantle those cycles. And when I have my children, one day, if I have children, or if I, even when I have my friends' children around me, like my nephew Orson or any of my friends' children, Eden, I try to give them love. I'm like, this is love, unfiltered, unadulterated. Here's your boundaries, but here's love. And I'm trying to exercise and practice that as much as possible. Even my friends, in my friendships, I'm like always trying to exercise that.
Wow. Yeah. I feel like we need a moment for this. This is amazing. This is so amazing. No, because the thing is, it's exactly like you said, choice,
It's
right?
choice.
We always have a choice.
Yeah.
And so like, because again, it's like, what is freedom, right? Like
Hmm.
even, you can be in paradise, but if you choose to look at everything through, tinted glasses of darkness, you won't see it, you won't feel it, right? Or you can be literally in a prison, but still choose to have the mindset of someone who's free.
Totally.
Always
Totally.
a choice, not an easy choice, but still a choice.
Still a choice.
100%. Oh, yeah, high five, boom.
Cool.
Mwah. Okay, well, and I also, one more thing, and then we're going to continue. I also love, so there you are in 2024, and you decide to go and spend 6 weeks with your granddad in Trinidad. What prompted that decision? I'm sure it was many things, but
Yeah, there was a few factors. There was a few factors. The first thing was it 24? I'm trying to remember. So 20, it was, hold on. We're in 26. Last year I didn't go. It was 23.
okay.
It was 2023. Sorry, let me give you that. And because 24, I went again, but my siblings joined me. So 23 was the first trip, and it was the first trip back to Trinidad since 2015, because I hadn't been since 2015. That's right. And so well, the last time I'd been was I was 16 years old. This time I went, I was 22 years old. And the thing that prompted me, number one, I was like, I had some money. So I was like, I can actually afford a ticket. Like I can actually, I've made some money up now. I've been working as a professional. I've done a tour. I went to Dominican Republic on holiday in December that year before, 2022. And I'd loved going back to the Caribbean. And I was like, I want to go home. And even though I am second generation British, I'm born here, my parents are born here, I still feel like Trinidad is my home. I still feel it. And I just was like, I need to go home. My granddad lives there by himself. So he was what, 90 at the time, 92 at the time. He lives there by himself. And he's got a brilliant community around him because he's an excellent human being and he's just been able to, people show up for my granddad in ways that is so unique. He'll call up his friend, hey boy, I need a boiler. I need a boiler thing. And someone will come with that boiler. Stat. And they all, Mr. Julian, Mr. And again, he's one of my biggest inspirations and one of my, you know, I look at his life and I go, I just aspire. So yeah, the prompt was go and see my granddad. I've got a bit of money. I'm a freelancer. I'm not working in a 9 to 5. I'm allowed to go. And I can go for an extended period of time. So I went in just after Carnival. So in Trinidad, Carnival is in February. So it's super expensive. And I was like, I'll go after Carnival. I'll go in March. And then just before I left, here's the funny thing. I booked the biggest paid job of my life. So I made the decision to go. And then suddenly an audition comes in. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm going to Trinidad. Like, I can't do this. And I was worried and I did the audition. I got the job and I flew to Trinidad. Literally, it happened like that. Got the gig got confirmed. I'm on the flight. So I went to Trinidad in this mindset of like, oh my God, my life is about to change. Like literally was like, I've just booked a TV job on Apple. I've seen the show. I like the show. The show is massive and insane. The money, I've never seen money like that in my life. I was like, whoa, like what is this? Blessings upon blessings upon blessings. And then I was going to spend 6 weeks with my granddad. I get to Trinidad and like the heat is when you walk into Piarco Airport and out the air conditioning, you feel the heat. Boof. And there's a certain smell in that airport in Trinidad that only people that have been to Trinidad will understand what I'm talking about. There's a smell, and I can feel it in my face. It is enveloping, and your body just goes, oh, okay, I'm here. And then we just live together. And again, when you do travels like that, people are like, "Oh, you're on holiday. You're on holiday." And I was like, "No, I'm just going home. Like, I'm just going to my other home." And people are like, "What are you up to? What are you doing?" I'm like, "We sat in the house all day. We did some gardening. We sat on the veranda. We had and at the time, like, so another little gem. I like cigars. I'm sorry, everybody. I know they're not healthy, but I love cigars. Like, it's just one of the things, and I'll explain about that later on in the story. But I took a box of cigars and I said to my granddad, and my granddad's again, he's amazing, but he's quite straight-laced in some things. And I said to him, look, I brought my cigars. Can I smoke my cigars? And he was like, oh boy, don't be smoking them cigars, you don't be smoking them cigars all the time. I said, ah. He said, but I'll let you go and smoke there. He gave me a spot. And that was the first time I recognized he saw me as a man or a young man who was making choices in his life. And it wasn't his job to stop them. It was his job to go, that is your space there. You can smoke there. Don't let it come in the house. Blah, 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 blah. That was the first thing. Then, so I knew how to drive before I got there. I've been driving at that point since 2018. So I can drive quite well. He let me drive his car. Now, that's not a big thing for a lot of people, but for us as a family, my mum's the only driver in the UK, and he's the only driver in the family apart from my mum, right? So when we're in Trinidad before, it'd be him driving us everywhere, he driving, he driving, he driving. And then he let me drive his car, which meant the responsibility shifted. Do you get me?
100%.
I became the responsible driver. He could sit back and just go that way, go that. And he's the most annoying passenger princess ever. Don't get me. Oh my God, that man will tell you how to drive for days. Oh my goodness. But he goes, he gave me the freedom to try. And Trinidad's quite a dangerous place to drive. It's not easy. It's not like, 1 minute you're on a motorway, next minute on a off-beaten track. Like it's not easy. And the trip that we did, the longest trip we did, we went to Tobago. So Tobago is the twin island, but we're in the south of Trinidad and Tobago's in the north. So you have to drive all the way up, get on a ferry, and then drive all the way through Tobago. And we did that trip. He fell asleep at one point. And those are the moments of my granddad. And I'm so happy that we're actually recording this because I don't think I've ever said these things out loud of what that trip did for us two as people. Like it was like he just saw me. And I was like, yeah, I'm not just little Ibrahim that came in. And his favorite story to tell about me is when I first went to Trinidad when I was a baby with grandma. So my grandma used to take me to Trinidad all the time. So it was always his wife would take me to Trinidad, my grandma. So me and my grandma have a very special bond because we traveled so much together. Uh, and I went to Trinidad and I was, what, 2? And I'm going around going, Bob the Vida. He always says, you're singing this song, you're singing this song. And I was singing Bob the Builder, my favorite TV show at the time. Bob the Builder. So for him, I think he saw this kid who he used to hold and play with and, sing this stupid TV song. And then suddenly he's come back and he's like a man. And I'm working. I was over there, I was working, doing a piece of cake. I was doing things on my laptop. I was booking in meetings. I was having FaceTime. I was working as well. And he's like, go into the office, take the office, go and work in the office. It's like, whoa, okay. And that off again, there's ritual. I think we forget, people want to get rid of all this stuff. They don't believe in it. And I really believe in it. Rituals as humans are so crucial. There's moments when people pass things down to you and they go, this is your time. This isn't your time. And me sitting in his big chair doing a meeting and he coming and sitting down on the small chair is a ritual. It's a flipping ritual. And if you don't recognize those moments, you let life pass you by because you're not bookmarking. You're not going, oh my God, that thing, that moment was actually very special.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? And I was like, well, okay. So we get through this trip, and it was, it was magic. And I got to drive up to the countryside to see my cousins. And it was a very, as I say, it was a very domestic trip. It was very much me and my granddad. And I was very keen that I didn't want to go and like I play steel pans, like I didn't want to go to a pan yard and do that stuff. I was like, it's me and granddad. We're just gonna do what granddad wants to do. He paid for my gym membership, so I was able to go to the gym. Da 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 da. Like, it was great. And then the TV job. Oh my God, I didn't even talk about this. In the middle of the trip, I needed to go and do a costume fitting and a 3D scan And they were like, we're gonna bring you back to London and send you back. I said, no, 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 don't do that. Send me to New York. So then I had another first moment. I'd never been to New York. So I go to New York, say, I'm 22. Like the more not 20, well, I was 23. Was I 23? 2023. No, I'd have been 22 at the time because my birthday's in June and this was in March. So I'd have been 22. Oh my God. Even thinking back to that, like, that's mad. 22. And I get flown to New York. I'm in New York for 2 days, work trip. And again, my granddad, he takes me to the airport. He's worrying, boy. And I'm like, don't worry, I'll be fine. I get to New York, have a great time. And I was like, whoa, my life has changed. Like, my life has really changed. Get back to Trinidad. Obviously, it cut a bit of the trip out. So, and it's funny how when you're on limited and you know your time is limited, every day really matters. So you're like, oh my God, like 3 days, that meant we lost a weekend. Oh, wow, like we lost a weekend. And like I'm going back soon. And you start to recognize that. And I think that's again another metaphor for life. Like actually we are all on limited time. We don't
A
really,
100%. We're on borrowed time.
we're all on that limited time. So actually like every single day is so essential. What you choose to do with it or choose not to do with it is important. So yeah, that trip was amazing. I learned so much about myself, reconnected with my cousins, and me and my granddad really just got this opportunity. But as I said to you earlier, like I learned a lot about how my dad grew up. We nearly had a fight. And the fight, like we had 6 weeks, no arguments, nothing. And it was like the last week, final week, and I was doing some laundry, and he was trying to tell me how to do my, and I said, I've lived by, I've lived by myself. I am an adult. I've done this. I know, and laundry. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like laundry. We driven from the Salta Trinidad all the way to Tobago. Fine. Laundry.
Right. Because, it's never about the thing. It's never
About
about the thing.
about what it is down here.
That's it.
And we didn't have a fight. We were fine, and we hug it out, and I just tried to, and it was fine. But that trip really taught me a lot about how my dad was grown up and raised. Like for context, again, my dad was raised in the UK with my grandma, but my granddad left to go back to Trinidad when he was 13, 12. And he went back because they had another son in Trinidad that they'd never brought to England. So I had an uncle in Trinidad. So he went back to try and save his life because his life was going on a trajectory that was not good, with crime and stuff like that.
Wow.
So you see how again those dynamics, you don't realize what seeds are being sown. That would have happened before I was even a thought. That separation of family, that's never really spoken about, never really unpacked in my family. Probably will never be because how do you speak to your grandma about her son who passed away and she wasn't there because she was here? How do you talk to
Mm.
her? How do you talk to her? Forget them being your grandma. A woman that's been through that's a lot. And
Mm.
and I'm not there to trigger and traumatize you. So I
No.
think I think and again, like this therapy era that we're living in, everyone feels like they've got entitlement to unpacking your trauma.
Mm.
And actually, there is some things that you go, you know what, peace and I share.
Oh, 100%. Exactly, because it's also, it's about, one thing is that you might feel that it's all about you, right? One might feel that the whole world is about me, right? No, no, no. Like,
Yeah.
we always have to ask ourselves, what I'm about to ask this person, whether family, friend, lover, whoever it is that gonna help or hurt them? And there is such a fine line, right? And sometimes we don't always know the correct answer to that, but at least take a heartbeat, take a breath before you start to just, bombard someone else. Yeah, no, this is so beautiful. And actually, without going into details, I had a similar moment in my own family where, something came up, a secret was revealed, I knew something, and part of me wanted to share it with someone. And I wanted to share it because you know, I've always been a very open person, and I was like, oh gosh, but if I know this thing and if I don't share it, it creates an edge, like a distance between us, right? And then I kept going, I understand it, me to me, but this information could potentially really hurt this other person. And it's so long ago that we can't change it. We literally cannot change it, right? And so it's, I just want to say, like, I can really, really, really resonate with that. Like, and always just asking myself, is this helpful or is this potentially hurtful? If you really feel that this is something that has the potential to be healing for everyone involved,
Then
you
let's
know,
go.
then let's go. And then, what I ended up doing, I ended up asking the person if they would, if they would be interested in hearing not XYZ, but, some information has come about. We don't have to open this chapter. Is this something you would like to know something about? I don't need to tell you anything. But again, giving another person a choice instead of just showering them.
Yeah.
Oh, I need this information from you. Again, Ibrahim, let's take you forward in time. So
Jump. Let's
let's
jump.
jump. Whoop. We've done a few 7-year cycles here and there, and
Yeah.
now we're gonna take you back. I would like to take you back to one of the first moments in time where you thought there's something about this theater acting thing.
Ooh, ooh.
One of your first memories. Where were you? Who were you with? What was going on?
We'll go back to year six. So for context, for the international listeners, year six is you are 11 years old. And it's also in the UK, the final year of your primary school education before you step into secondary school education. And we obviously did a school production. Year six does a school production, and it's like a big thing. And I remember it being a big thing. It was a big flipping thing. And we did Oliver. And I was like, again, for the international listeners that might not know Oliver, Oliver is like your quintessentially British play. It is the most British musical ever. It's like Oliver, Oliver, never before. It's like very trad British theatre. Um, and I wanted Oliver, but I couldn't sing. And I knew that about myself, I couldn't sing. So I was like, I understand if I can't get Oliver. But I want Fagin. I was like, Fagin talks like that. He's kind of like the fun uncle. And I was like, I could do Fagin. I could do a Fagin. I auditioned. I thought, yeah, this is a bit me. It's going to be me. I've got it. And I didn't get it. I didn't get the part. My friend Abdurrahman, I think he got it. Abdi. I think he's called Abdi. And he got it. And Abdi was funny. I remember Abdi at school was the funniest guy. And actually, it's something I would say about most Somali people. They are funny. They have this way in the room that will make you belly laugh. I can't explain it, but they just have humor in their bones. You know what I mean? And not many people understand that about the Somali community. Like they have this aura and this glow that is just beautiful, right? And Abdi got it. Fine. I was like, okay, so what am I gonna get? What am I gonna get? Am I gonna get Bill Sykes? Nah. Am I gonna get? Nah. I got a small part. Small part. I think I said one line. But I've got a photo somewhere of us, and I found it and didn't even remember I had it, of us in costume in year six. And I framed it and I put it up because I've gone, that actually is my first acting moment. That was my first desire to want something palpably. Didn't get it, fine. Yeah, and again, it's a lesson. You don't get things. Things don't happen your way. That's okay. You still participated. You still were involved. You might not have been doing what you thought you'd be doing, but there's bigger things to come. 11, 10, 10 years old at the time, because again, my birthday's in June. So most of my school year would have been at 10 years old. So that was the first moment. Then I think if I was to even trace before that, we did like Easter egg, Easter hat competitions and stuff. And my creative eye, I wanted to make an Easter bonnet. My parents were just like, again, like, not saying my parents were no, you can't do. They were just like, we don't have the capacity to give that. Like, my mum was working, my dad's not well. Like, how do you facilitate your kid wanting to make a flipping paper hat? You know? But I met this guy named Suvikaran. He's a Tamil kid. And this is year two, so this is back in track, or maybe year four. But between that age, so maybe 8, 9. And I said, Suvi, we need to make a hat, man. We need to make a And again, me and Subi should never have been friends, you know, like it's completely different backgrounds, cultures, energies. I said, let's make a hat. So I go around to Subi's house, Subi Karen's house. We made this Easter bonnet. And I was like, who's gonna wear the hat in the parade? Because it was shocking. It was shocking. It was so bad. And he was like, I'm not wearing it. I'm gonna have to wear this shit hat. And I remember the feeling of taking this hat and walking through the assembly hall and having this hat on, and I was just like, "Fuck it, I'm proud of it." And I made a joke out of it. I was like, "Look at shit," but like, I've got a hat and I've got a little chocolate egg. That's my performance. That's always what I've been. I think I've been quite a. Fuck it, I'll embarrass myself. It's fine. I'll be the silly one. I'll be the silly one for the day. That's fine. So my performance sort of started there. My theatre was in year six. And then you get into secondary school and you've got opportunities to go to drama club to do those sort of things. I did drama club. My drama teacher from secondary school, Mrs. Rubin, and I will talk about Mrs. Rubin properly. I know we're running low on time, but Mrs. Rubin is a woman, without her existence, I would not be sat here today with you. Not that I would be dead, but we just never have met because I would never have been in the circles that was in. I never would have gone to drama school. I never would have probably survived secondary school. I probably never would have gotten through the trauma of being in secondary school for me as a person. Um, and I would never have been given the opportunities and outlets to perform in the way that I did. Mrs. Rubin, Jum Rubin, is the woman that I can put all of my achievements. She was the woman that opened the door, and I will always like respect her for that. And I can feel like getting emotional about it because she advocated for me more than anybody else. And we still speak. She lives in Singapore now, and we speak on the phone. Some terrible stuff has happened in my life, and I call her and be like, John, and she'd be like, "Don't worry, I've got you." And she calls me Toure. She because at school everyone used to call me Toure by my last name. Don't know why, they just did. Actually, I do know why. Again, that's for the longer episode. But she's called me Toure. So Toure, don't worry, Toure. But yeah, drama club, doing that stuff. I got to play. We would never do this now at school. I got to play the Negro
Oh
Resurrectionist.
my God, I'm so sorry. I'm back. I'm sorry.
Ah, I got to play the Negro Resurrectionist at school. Year nine. Had a running coat. Interesting play. It was about the Venus Hottentot actually, and it really interesting play, but really dark. I mean, but again, like we laugh because we go, "What the fuck?" But then Jum was also somebody that was like, "Why can't we tell those stories about the black woman that was put in a circus and no one knows?" And actually, yes, it was risque, but we learned so much. We did something that was not, I'll live our. It wasn't, it wasn't that. It was pretty gritty. Would never be done at school now. But yeah, I got to play the Negro Resurrectionist. And then, we did other school plays and stuff like that. But actually, funny enough, at secondary school, I was really invested into music. Like, I'm a steel pan player. I've got my steel pan in the back. I was a jazz trumpet player. I was in choir when I first got to the school. I was like, I want to be in choir, please. And I was let into choir, even though I can't sing. Um, and my musical journey and my musical performance was actually the thing that I thought at the time would be the thing I would do. I was like very, in year 13. So when you're about to go to university, I was like, I'm applying for music school. I took all and funny enough, my best friends, Aidan, Dan, Nathan, and Joe Kwan, um, Joe Kwan's not a musician, but he's an amazing singer. That's why I say Andrew Kwan, because he's not a musician, but he can do everything. He's a genius. But Aiden, Dan, Nathan went to music school, studied jazz, and they were always going to go. But I was the one that was like, we need to go up to Leeds, to Birmingham, to this place, Manchester. Let's go and see all the music schools. It was me. I booked those train tickets. I was like, we need to go. And again, at 16, 17, I look back and I'm like, wow, like we were just doing it. We just did it. We just got on the train and went. Um, and they went and studied jazz, and I didn't because I was told by my steel pan teacher, I was told, son, that's not for you. You don't practice enough, you don't do enough of that. You know how hard that is, you're not gonna get in. So I left that dream. And that's actually the first time I think I was told you're not gonna be able to do that. And I took it on and I went, all right, I won't. Um, so yeah, music was the big thing for me in my early to late teens. It still is. I love listening to music. You know, I do samba. Started doing samba when I was 12, 13. I'm still doing. I'm directing the samba school now, and I produce for them. And so yeah, it's always been about performance. People ask me, why did you want to become an actor? It's always been about performance, not performative, but for me, performance is a thing that comes from your truest self. It's not a lie. It's not a mask. It comes from a place of honesty and vulnerability that I'm telling you how I feel through the vessel of the instruments around me. And if I'm an actor, through the vessel of my instrument, me. And I think about like when I went out to a party last week in Paris and we were dancing and I was just letting out. We were dancing. I was like, I'm not performative in this. I am performing because we are dancing. You're enjoying. You're an audience. You're interacting. Yeah, we're dancing. We're in a performance. But I'm not performative. It's not a lie. It's not me doing it because I'm going, you're gonna like what I do today. It's a truth and honesty of this is how I feel today.
Oh my God.
Do you know what I mean?
I couldn't agree more. It's truth.
It's truth.
It's truth. Yeah, like I got asked the other day, by the speaker agency, and they were like, so Josie, what did your background in the performing arts teach you? How did that, inform what you do as a coach today?
Mhm.
And I was like, in any performing art, you can't lie. There's no way you can lie. I mean, for me personally, I started out as a ballerina, right? I was like, if something isn't working, I can't fake it. I can't just put some words out there, right? Like if my legs is not up there, it's not up there.
It's not there.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's, the only one, and I can't blame anyone else or anything else. And it's not to blame, but like everything starts and ends with me.
Mm.
And so there is a purity to this. There's a truth to this. And it's that same thing, like you were saying, like you were there, you were in Paris at this party and you were all moving together, you were part of something together. Yes, it wasn't performative. Did it turn into a sense of a performing together? Yes, because there was a togetherness about it and there was a truth for your expression, right? And it's also like, anything for me, whether someone out there is a listener, whether you relate to yourself as an artist or not, for me, an art is allowing yourself to be a channel.
Yeah.
So you step out of the way, right? You have full permission to express whatever we don't do in everyday life. Like for me, everyday life is performative. Yeah. I go in, I speak with people, and at times my heart is aching, my heart is breaking, and I still have to like hold it together, right? We even say that, we're like, oh, keep it together. We're like, what the fuck am I supposed to keep together? In fact, let it out, right? So it's like, art creates a space where you are allowed, you have full permission, right? So in many ways, everyday life is a performance. Yeah.
And I think I've been reading The Creative Act. I've been reading this flipping book for 6 months. I love it though. Have you
Talk to us.
Have you read The Creative Act?
No.
Everybody on this podcast must buy Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act. That is not a sponsor. He is a B corporation. He is amazing. And I've been reading it almost like a Bible, actually. Almost like a not that I venerate it like that, but in terms of I'm not consuming it, I'm actually reading it and I'm actually processing it and taking a chapter and going, how am I going to live my life through that chapter today?
Mm.
And he talks about that in the first few chapters of you are like a radio and you capture signals. Signals come to you. Art is the universal signal. You are not the maker. Yeah, like you are the vessel. You take ideas. Ideas come to you, and you create them. But the idea can go anywhere. Like it's that funny thing that Michael Jackson, complicated man, but he said, if I don't do this idea now, God's gonna give it to Prince.
But this is so true.
Because you're not the owner of the idea.
Exactly.
You are just
Exactly.
the vessel.
Right.
So that, and which also gives you this freedom to go, oh shit, like if I don't do this idea right now, I will have other ideas in the future. Not every idea is as precious as we make it out to be, because there is this mental abundance of creative ideas.
Oh, 100%. And I loved it. I loved it. This thing of like, to not take ownership of it, to not be like, oh, it was me. It's like, no, it wasn't. And the same thing, like you said, you look at the world before we had telephones, before people were even traveling by boat, going back that far, people were building pyramids in opposite ends of of our planet, right? At the same time, right? We get these ideas, right?
Exactly. And even when you think about that, like, so this makes me go back to a point we said about the dancing.
Mm.
It is a performance for something bigger than us, actually.
100%.
Actually, the universe is watching everything. I'm not talking about God. I'm talking about the energy of the universe is always watching us. And the fact that those pyramids, those massive structures even exist, shows you what belief and faith into bigger than you can actually generate.
Oh my God, yes.
Because actually people now are like, how do they do it? How do they do it? And I'm like, because they believed in bigger shit than us.
Right.
And
Oh,
if
oh,
you can't get that into your mind, that faith and spirituality and whatever that is, faith in, and I talk about spirituality in the thing that lives in all of us that is bigger than all of us, that will rip out of this body at some point and go back into the universe. If you don't believe in that, you are never going to build a life as big as those pyramids.
amen. That was beautiful. I love that. You're never going to build a life as big as those pyramid.
Of course not.
Absolutely incredible. And also like, again, like to just make this super tangible.
Mm.
Whenever there's something in my life where, most things, I don't know the outcome and I'm not even trying to control it. But, we all wish for certain things, we dream for certain things, whatever it is. And then, in my rational brain, the logical, I must be able to, I don't know, organize, whatever. When that part kicks in, the fear factor, when that pops its head up, I always remind myself, life created me, us. Life created this planet. Life decided to put all of this into motion. Like, who the fuck am I to A, think that I know anything? B, take any power, the miraculous away. So, if this incredible thing that breathes lives into you and me, into all living beings, right, can create these absolutely incredible things, then who am I to sit here and go, well, oh, that thing probably won't happen? Why not? Why not?
Why not? Why not?
You know?
Why not?
Exactly. I love that. 100 and you know what? Oh, Ibrahim, this makes so much sense as well. Why I like you so much, because it's I'm a human being. Of course, I have lots of emotions that at times are really intense. All the rest of it, like hallelujah, we all do. That's what makes us human. That's what we're supposed to have, right?
Mm.
But what I really, really love is I am in awe of life. And
Yes.
I'm in awe of the every single day miracles.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the really big thing. I'm talking about the teeny tiny ones too, right?
Anyone?
Like I walk around like kind of like a child with the biggest eyes out there going like, wow, I wonder what's going to happen today. Like
Mhm.
incredible.
I'll give you another thing. I think it is incredible that every single human being, every single one of us, will go unconscious for a certain amount of time and then just get up.
Yes, I know what you mean.
I don't think anybody, I don't care how many PhDs you have, how much you've researched into it, how much time you've spent into that, the fact that we were both unconscious on the cousin of death. That's what it's called, like the cousin of death. We were not conscious for an extent, not just for 10 minutes, not for 5 minutes, but for hours, and then just got up and went, right, another day. What?
Right.
What? Sorry. What?
I love that. And we've now all just made that like a normal thing. Like that we don't really talk about.
And then it takes me back. So I'll tell you something that I wrote to my friend Tamara, who's also a healer. I will definitely introduce you. She's amazing. Said to her, the absurdity of reality requires the grounding of gratitude.
100% yes.
And I think that that is, and I say that if I was to make that more tangible, is like my granddad. I use my granddad as an example again. When I lived with him, every single morning, that man would wake up and get on his knees and thank you. I made it again. Every single morning. And his thing to me is that he said, if there's anything you got to do, is pray. And I think that prayer for me, I'm not a practicing Muslim, I'm not a practicing Christian or anything like that. Prayer for me is talking to your spirit. Prayer for me is allowing the spirit to flow through you and talk to the bigger. It might not be about talking to Jesus or talking to God or talking to Allah. It might just be, I took a beat because I got up and everything's working. Oh my gosh, it's all working. And I'm saying thank you because the absurdity of the fact that I was just unconscious needs the grounding of gratitude for thank you, I got to do it again. I
Um,
think.
a million times yes. I mean, if I'm only just like stopping myself from jumping up and down, jumping out of screen over here to celebrate what you just said, but oh my God. Oh, I feel like I've just had like the biggest release in my heart. My heart just went, I'm almost emotional on this side of the screen, Ibrahim, because so so few people can articulate that, which it can feel so difficult to put into words, but you articulate it so brilliantly.
Oh,
That
thank
is
you.
exactly right. Exactly right. 100%. Just adding to that, because there's also this thing of like, you know, especially in this culture, in this day, in this age, it's like, and then once I do this, and then that, and then this, and then that, and happiness is out here. Gratitude, happiness is out here. And it's like, if you are not practicing, again, a choice, if you're not choosing to see the miraculous in this moment right here,
Yeah,
you're not going to see it when you're out there.
yeah,
You are not going to see it when you're out there. You're not going to see it even when all of your, apparent dreams come true. You're not going to see it. In fact, you're actually going to feel really sad because now you have what you thought was going to make you glad, but it's not. Right? Now you're just going to be a person that's not depressed because now you don't even have the goal that kept pushing you forward, where you're like, happiness is out there in a distant future. Love it. The absurdity of life requires the groundedness of gratitude to ground into gratitude. I love that. And another action, little one on that is as well that, you know, I always talk about death because we die all the time. And why do we not talk about this? So it's like you said, the fact that something is now like on that trip, if you're granted, where all of a sudden it was reduced. So then it was, you knew you like it was so limited. So we had to make the most and make us really present, right?
Yeah.
So this is another little sneaky point.
And I've learned a lot about death over the last, say, 18 months. Like, my best friend died. Like, he died at 32 and he died from an aneurysm. There's nothing anyone could do. And I have to big up Dimitri. Like, I've got his program, Celebration of Life program, up on my shelf. Dimitri was the most intentional, heartwarming, sensational man. And he lived for 32 years. And the eulogy, the celebration of life. There's a church in Hammersmith. It's one of the biggest churches, St. Paul's, like cathedral. I think it seats like 600 people. There were people at the door standing. And I'm not saying that to revere him, because it wasn't about like, oh my God, Dimitri. It was about he had the smallest interactions with people that made their lives better. One lady came up and said, all he used to say to me was, good morning, Auntie. How are you? But he did it every day. Good morning, Auntie. How are you? Every day. And I think about Dimitri a lot because his time, and in the anger of grief, you go, your time was cut short, man. But actually, I think his time was allocated and it was allocated for a reason. And when he passed, it was like, again, I'm 27. He died when I was 25. Again, even looking at time, 2 years of my lifetime. I'm clocking it like that. And I'd never experienced grief like that. I was driving down when I got the call that he was in hospital in ICU, the way I sped down the road, never driven like that, tears in my eyes. I've never experienced that in my life. I got there and he's hooked up this machine, and I'm like, what is going on, bro? I'm talking to him like, bro, wake up. What are you doing? I was like, brother, what are you do? Like, he used to like jokes and thing, innit? What are you doing, bro? I was just like, get up. I get it. You want a little attention. Get up. And the thing that hurts me the most, Josephine, about that, and I will never be able to forget about his grief. The last message he sent me was, when are we meeting up? And because of life, being busy, whatever, I forgot to reply. And the next time I met him was in the hospital. And at the time, not that I knew, he was already dead. He was already gone. Because by the way an aneurysm works, you have the hemorrhage, pretty much, unless you're in a hospital as it happens, pretty much gone. And so I was speaking to my friend who had passed away for 3 days. But I felt his spirit was in the hospital. I don't care anything. His spirit was watching. His spirit was like, there's Ibrahim, there's Kimmy, there's this person, there's this person, there's this. I could feel him. And then on the day that we said, turn off the machine, you had, thanks, guys. I'm gone. So death is real. It's sad, but it's part of the journey. And you have to allow yourself to grieve all the way through it, because you have to understand at the end of it, there's a reason for it. Because again, I found out 6 months later, his other two best friends who were married were pregnant. And they'd found out they were pregnant at the time that he was dying, and were going to tell him. And he was the first person they told. Wow, look at life.
Right.
Wow, look at life. As our best friend was departing, their new responsibility was coming.
Yeah.
Wow. And if you can't, I'm tingling because I think maybe it's D, like just thinking, yeah, brother, that's what it is. But that is for me the crux of life. And as I say, I've seen death in so many different ways. Like my aunt passed away in Trinidad. My granddad's sister passed away. Her daughter died from heartbreak. Her daughter died because of the heartbreak. She went with her mum. I mean, this is quite traumatic, so I'm really sorry for the listeners. I saw someone take their life in this year. I saw someone make the choice to go, I don't want to be here anymore. Saw it happened in front of me. And all of these things, I say them not to pity me, because it's not about me. That's their journey. Their souls made a contract before they came here that was going to happen. But I am part of that story as a witness or as someone absorbing that energy, and I could let it drag me, but instead I've allowed it. I've allowed some of it to process through me, and I take that as the responsibility. I've allowed that to happen, but equally, I'm on a journey of becoming a fuller human. So I've got to have all these things racing through me, going through me, so that I can understand what we are experiencing in this existence.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? And I can
100%.
sit here and smile and go, wow, at times pain. Of course, it's torture. Like you see things like that, you're like, whoa, like I had a panic attack. I was like, what? I was like, what? Me? Panic attacking in the streets? Like, what? But I'm a human being, so I have to go through those things. I have to have
And
those moments.
and also again, like the most natural response to life. I'm not saying that everyone should have a panic attack, and I'm really, really sorry about that. And that is
No,
not a fun
don't apologize
experience.
about
I'm not
it.
gonna just like brush over that,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah. No, but again, like as a human being, when you allow yourself to feel life
Mm,
and let life move through you and let life move you, you ain't just gonna feel the lightness and the brightness. You're gonna feel all of it as it should be.
as it should
I
be.
remember a few years ago, I had this phone call from my little sister. I just came out of the dentist, and my dad, who I hadn't seen for about 15 years, had a heart attack.
Mhm.
And she's there, my little sister, going, we don't know where in the world he is.
Mm.
And I'm there, I'm very action oriented, so I was just like jumping on a bus. Like I was like, I need to get to the airport. I'm crying uncontrollably. I'm not trying to stop these tears.
No.
There was the most beautiful woman on the bus who came over and just like quietly handed me like 500 handkerchiefs as I was
Yeah.
not prettily crying and nose everywhere and like,
Yeah.
but that like, why, how would you not, why are we so repressed as a nation, as a world, right? Like life is really intense at times. So I'm not saying that we should, there's a perfect way of doing this, but what you're describing, if you want to have the experience of being a human being that can not just empathize with others, but also really allow yourself to let love in,
Mhm.
well, the love is also the pain of something leaving, right? When someone leaves, whether that's due to death or a relationship ends, a project ends, whatever, like any ending,
Yeah.
if you really love that thing, that person, that program, that country, that land, those animals, whatever it is, you're gonna feel the emptiness of them not being there.
Yeah.
That's
Totally.
that's not because you didn't love, it's because you really love.
Yeah. Totally.
So and there's a little thing that popped into my head. I had two people pass last year, and this thing kept coming into my head, which was like, wow, what the dead can teach us about living.
Woo! Speak on it.
All of a sudden
Speak on it.
I was fueled. I'm already quite an inspired, like I'm quite a motivated person. I was out there, I was everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, because like you said, it's not about us. We're
It's not
doing
about
this
us.
for everything, right? Like it wasn't Josephine. It was just, I was like, I have this thing, and it was like, speak for those that can no longer speak, move for
Yeah.
those that can no longer move, right?
Yeah.
Act on behalf of those that no longer have a choice, right? So
Yeah.
that is why we do what we do. It's never just about me or about you. It's about Oh,
Can I
that's
give you another story? Again, the podcast. We will get back to the joy stuff, I'm sure. But like, there was one thing that I experienced in Paris that I never thought I'd experience. And for context, by the way, Paris, I should not have been there. Like,
yeah.
I
By
get
the way, why
asked
were
by
you in
people.
Paris? I got that text. You're like, I'm in Paris.
Yeah, I was there for Fashion Week, and I was there because I do a retail job, part-time, 2 days a week. And the retail job had a showroom, and they needed an extra pair of hands. So they asked me if I wanted to go, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." I've worked at this company for 4 months, and they were like, "We will pay for everything. Just come." And I was like, "Okay, okay, I will come." I was in Paris in the hottest day ever recorded in Paris. And it was insane. So good. Such an amazing experience, but also such a lesson to me that you don't know where you're going to end up, but you're always going to end up in the right place. And I was on a night out on the Saturday. We had was it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. There was a party that the company that I work for was doing, and it was an amazing exhibition. Da, 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 da. But we had this urge to like go out afterwards, right? So we go out, the night's weird, you end up here, you end up there, you're like, okay, we end up in this techno club, this house club, and I'm like trying to dance. I was like, okay, fine. And then we leave, 2 o'clock in the morning, fine. We're trying to find somewhere else to go, nothing's really open. Paris kind of is quite done at 2. So I light a cigar, I start walking back to my place, and then I meet these two women walking up the road, and they're speaking English, and they're going, "We're gonna go here." And I was like, "Guys, I'm like, guys, there's nothing open. You're gonna have to like go back home. Like, there's nothing happening." And they're like, "No, no, we found somewhere." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, all right, yeah." And they're like, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, "I'm going back to my hotel." They're like, Uber then comes in front of us. The Uber pulls up. They're like, "Come on, you're coming." I was like, "No, no, no." I get dragged into this Uber. Now that could have been the end of my story, and that could have been a really scary article in the papers. But I get dragged into this Uber. I've got my hand outside the Uber because I've got a cigar lit. So I'm smoking, whatever. We're getting down this road. We get down to this club. They go to another techno club. It's a gay club. We get to the doors there, and the two girls, Ella and Kim, they were just like, "Let's go." We get into the club. The security guard stops us. "Sorry, it's too hot. No other bodies are allowed in." Oh shit. Okay, fine, okay. And I said, "But I saw somewhere open. There's a pub like open down the road. Gonna." So we go to this pub. We sit down. And I meet the most incredible two humans. We have this hot conversation that lasted until about 4:35 a.m. We get there about 2:30 to about 4:35. Strangers. Learn so much about these two humans because I'm curious about people. So I'm listening to what they're saying. Turns out one of the girls she's a nurse, but she's a nurse of one of the highest levels. So she gets helicoptered into places to go and save lives. And she said to me, and I hope I say this with love and respect, and if she ever listens to this or we ever meet again, I tell your story with admiration for who you are, and I share it with the world because I think it's incredibly important. And it was also a big lesson into what you see is not always what you know. She was this like blonde, beautiful woman, like very drunk out of her face, like, not very drunk, but she was drunk and having a good time. She was out living. She was living. And these two people had met in Paris, and then the other girl was from California, and she's a beautiful black woman from California who works at Apple, very high up with Craig Federighi. Like, and they've met in Paris and they become friends in Paris. And then they meet me. And then we become this like weird group of strangers traipsing Paris. And we sit down in this pub and I find out that this girl, this woman, her job was to go into places and save lives as a nurse doctor. And one of the things, the reason she'd left the job to go traveling for a year was because she held a child who was caught in a meth explosion in a house. And I think she said he was 6 years old or 8 years old, I can't remember. And he said to her, the last words he said to her were, "Madam, I wish I could do one more day." She quit her job and she went traveling. She said, "I do everything in my life because he couldn't." Yeah,
Wow.
as a
Wow.
child. He held him before he died. He said, "Madam, I wish I could do one more day."
Wow.
So if anyone wants to talk about, oh, it's like, I got this. Oh. It's like, okay, but you could I said it again to somebody. The difference between once more and never again is very thin, you know. That difference is it's like paper, it's like the leaves on this, like you can kind of see through it, right? The difference between once again and never again,
I
thin.
mean,
So like these things have come to me and they've happened, and I just sit and I go and I got back to my hotel at like 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is. Just met two of the most incredible people because we are all incredible people.
mm,
And if I had just judged them by who they were, you know, they're out late at night, women like walking around and she's drunk at her face, I would never have learned the truth of that human and what they've experienced. Because judgment is we're so taught to judge. If you get rid of that veil of judgment and just go, who are you? Who are you? Why are you here? Why have you decided to come to Paris? The other lady, she's Jamaican. Her mum's from Jamaica. She's, you know, lives in California and she's been traveling the world and she's just lived in different places. And I said, but you've never been back to Jamaica? She said, no. I said, why? As someone that's been to Trinidad and, you know, I told you the context of that. I said, why? I said, if you went back to Jamaica and lived in Jamaica and gave back to the country the things that you give to the world, Jamaica would be such a good place. And she was like, I've never thought about that. I was like, yeah, because we're taught to run away from ourselves. Black people, particularly, are taught run away from yourself. Be as far away from yourself as possible because we are superhumans. And when we dock back in to the spaces that we are from, where we exist, we can do things. We can do, we can make pyramids. Um, so yeah, I have just had these moments where I'm just like, and I think it's maybe it's because I'm just really in awe of existence like you are. That I just see, you know, some people are like, oh, it's just a night out. Ah, you've been on a night out. You met two people, you were on a night out. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That was more than a night out. That was more than I met people, properly, truly connected with people. And I was like, yeah, that's magic, that's special.
absolutely amazing, Ibrahim. Absolutely amazing. And also because, like, I always I talk about the beauty of the everyday life
Yeah.
because it's exactly that same thing. You grabbed that opportunity. You know, you could have, like you said, you could have let judgment take over. You were also tired, you know, you'd already been out of
I
bed
had a couple
all
of
day.
drinks as well,
Listen,
I'll be honest.
you, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I get you. We're all human. But, you know, again, that same thing, like, can we see beyond what we're seeing? Can we
Mhm.
feel into something, right? Can we remember that the person who is in front of us right now, even if they look super different, even if, you know, like, and your first thought is like, you know, we will have nothing in common, right? But it's like, yeah, but we have the same human heartbeat, and the human heart always wants the same thing, you know? Like, and to, you know, so again, it goes back to the same thing, which is truth, right? This is not pretending. We're not rehearsing for life. And we all, oh, and this is good as well, because we're not rehearsing for what, you know, again, that thing of like the dream life out here. The dream is here.
It's here. You know,
Paradise is
oh my
here.
God. I think I said that to you when we met last. I said my dream for something, we were talking about dreams, and I said my dream, and I was like, but I think we're doing it. I think like my dream is happening. So I'm pretty happy. Like and like just going, no, no, I think this is the dream.
Right.
But if we are constantly going, the dream is out there, um, we ain't ever gonna get it. And also, I think when I met these two people, they were asking, where do I see myself in 10 years' time? I said, I have no idea because everything I have achieved or done that has been like, whoa, I didn't even know it was possible. I didn't know it was possible. It's dreams that, if I asked you, what are you going to dream about tonight? What are you going to dream about when you sleep tonight? You go, I don't know. Exactly. So what am I going to live tomorrow? I don't know. The same answer.
100%. And like you said, like it's like we want to etch the mystery away, the magical, the divine,
Yeah.
the surprises, right? Like I really, and exactly like you said, when you look back at your life, like, small moments, big moments, like this powerful moment that it turned
Hmm.
out to be in Paris, right? You know,
Hmm.
when you said yes to going with that fashion company to Paris, you had no idea that was going to happen. And
No
imagine,
idea.
imagine you if you had planned that whole Paris trip down to the teeny tiny minute, there would have been no space.
None.
No space, right? Like that's the beauty of the spaciousness and of allowing life to surprise and delight you, right? I'm just sitting here nodding with you, like you and I should just get together and having a nodding day. I cannot believe. Wow, this is just absolutely wonderful. I am looking at time. Ibrahim, there's a question I always ask people, and I feel like I could, you've already answered this from so many different angles, so many different perspectives. But I still want to ask you, as you look back over your life, no, from all the many chapters in Seven, all the way back from 1999, June, you said you were born in, with everything you said yes to, with everything you said no to, with everything you ran towards, with everything you ran away from, with everything you decided to begin, with everything you decided to end. In the wisdom that you sit in today, which is way beyond your human years, by the way, way beyond. If you had just one or two soul messages for humanity, what would it be?
Breathe deeply. My first one. Breathe deeply. Celebrate more. There's my two things.
Absolutely love those two. Tell us a little bit more about why you're choosing these two right now.
Breathe deeply. We breathe without thinking all the time. And it actually is the biggest human, I think it's the most important human process that we do, breathing. But we do it without thinking about it. So why, if you think about it, what happens to you? What happens when you take a breath? What happens? Everything just whoosh. And then you start to breathe in different things. You breathe in inspiration. Breathing is metaphorical. Breathing is literal. Breathing is spiritual. Breathing is the thing. It cycles. It teaches about cycles. That air that you just took in is going all the way through your vessel and coming back out to go into another vessel. Cycles. So I think breathe deeply is really important. Celebrate more. We are okay. That comes from I was told when I was younger, self-praise is no praise. And I think I've lived my life in adversity of all of that. Because self-praise is the most important praise. You have to praise yourself. You have to go, well done today, man. Well done. You did that. You got through it. You did it. Well done. Celebrate that. Clock that. Bookmark that. Celebrate it. Milestone that. Celebrate it. And I've always been like rubbish with birthdays again. When we do part two of this, I'll talk about my childhood and like why birthdays are important to me. But they're not important because I don't use the birthday to celebrate me. I celebrate me whenever I want to. If I want to go and have a cigar that I enjoy, that I've been saving, I'll smoke it because, hey, we never know. We never know. Someone told me that uncle had all these whiskeys in their house. They used to love whiskey and people used to buy them whiskey, really lovely whiskey. And when he died, they went through his house and he had like 600 bottles of whiskey, loads of whiskey. But every single bottle was opened and a dram had been drunk. Why? Because now is the time we celebrate. You brought me that, yeah, crack it. Celebrate more.
Powerful. Powerful words, Ibrahim.
Thank you, Josephine.
Oh my God, so amazing. I feel like this has just been, I feel like I went to church, but in the most beautiful
Yeah.
way. This has just been, your way of seeing life, your perspective of life, your life philosophy. So refreshing. I feel like I've been sitting in an energetic shower of goodness. Thank you so much for your incredible energy. Ibrahim, before we wrap it up for today, is there anything we didn't come around where you're like, there was this one thing? If there's any last things we can
I
do
mean,
it?
I'd love to, the people that I didn't speak about enough are my grandmas and my mum. And I think that that's the only, I'm blessed that women in my life, and my sister as well, and my great grandma who's still alive. Women in my life have been so instrumental to me being the man that I am. And I feel like I spoke about male lineage and the trauma, the generational trauma quite a lot, but women, women are I can't explain it, but they're so instrumental to me and how I can sit here today. And I just want to say a big thank you to all the women in my life. I love you guys deeply.
And on those beautiful words, we're gonna finish it here. Dear listeners out there, um, watch out for episode 2, where we go deep into the female line of Ibrahim Toure's family system. We're having a comeback. Yeah, I'm not done with you. And Ibrahim, stay on the line for a moment. Thank you so much.